Donald Trump's heartlessness has been outdone by Senator Mike Lee. The very first tweet that the very sick Mike Lee issued after those deadly news bulletins from Minnesota was, "My guess is he's not MAGA." We now know that the suspected shooter voted for Donald Trump. We know the suspected shooter is MAGA.
I was a Trump supporter, voted for Trump. Everybody's happy, not happy what this politician does or that politician does, but you don't go on a shooting spree. It's just, that's why I hate even talking about it, because it's so crazy.
During the weekend manhunt for the suspect in this murder and attempted murder case, Mike Lee decided to blame the Democratic governor of Minnesota for the murder and attempted murder by calling it, quote, "nightmare on Wall Street." He also posted, quote, "This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way." Mike Lee is a disgrace. He is a disgrace to the Senate. He is a disgrace to Utah. He owes the voters of Utah who sent him to the Senate an apology for his ugly tweets, his perverse tweets. He owes the nation an apology.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network. The one thing that all American political leaders used to be able to agree on, the one issue where they came together, was the unequivocal condemnation of political violence. If for no other reason than literal self-preservation, that used to be a hard line. But that tradition is gone. As we have consistently reported, Donald Trump repeatedly invokes threats of political violence and has provoked actual political violence and celebrated and pardoned its perpetrators. So it should be no surprise when senior members of his party follow suit. But somehow the callousness of Senator Mike Lee's response to the Minnesota assassinations is still shocking. The shooter had with him a hit list of Democratic lawmakers that included colleagues of Mike Lee in the Senate. I could not have put it better than Lawrence O'Donnell. Senator Mike Lee is a disgrace. And although he has since deleted those horrific tweets, he refuses to apologize. I spoke with Chris Goldsmith about the effect that this normalizing of political violence by Republican lawmakers will have on our democracy. Part one of that conversation posted yesterday. Here's part two. Other names on that list purportedly included U.S. senators. And I bring that up because one of their colleagues, Senator Mike Lee, saw fit to make jokes on his X/Twitter feed about the assassinations. I don't know if I don't think he's mentally ill. I don't think he's like a depraved person, but I think he must live in a world now that you understand better than I do that rewards that kind of thing. Help us understand how a U.S. senator does something like that, knowing that his colleagues are on that hit list.
Yeah, so Mike Lee, his Twitter handle is based Mike Lee. Based is, for the vast majority of this audience, which I know is something that most of the audience just has not heard of before. This is not exclusively, but used heavily among young people on the far right. They describe, racism or anti-Jewish behavior as based. Again, this is not exclusively how it's used.
Right?
It's like saying something is cool, right? But the neo-Nazis, the alt-right, the Groypers, the like Nick Fuentes types, who are getting hired and work on the Hill. They used to be limited pretty much to Paul Gosar's staff. Now they're on both sides of the Capitol, both the House and the Senate. And I suspect that it's probably, I don't know for sure, but I suspect that it's probably a young person, a Groyper, someone who listens to Nick Fuentes, who is managing Mike Lee's Twitter account. I don't know that for sure. It could be the senator himself. If it is the senator himself, I would love to see him censured, because making jokes about an assassin who is going to kill one of your colleagues,
who was on the loose still at the time of those posts, he was still at large.
Yeah, because it's not just about, the politician who I know a lot of Americans, when something happens to a politician or a CEO, they can go like, oh, they asked for it. And maybe they did. I'm not going to argue that point. But it's the families who are affected, the families who did not run for office, who did not become, a member of some corporate board or something like that. It is the families that Mike Lee is completely disregarding. This is the families who did not ask for this, because it wasn't just, the speaker who was killed, and it wasn't just, her colleague in the Senate. It was their spouses who were shot as well. And Mike Lee should have that in mind when he is joking about assassins trying to kill his colleagues.
Hey, it's Ken Harbaugh. Huge shout out to everyone who has supported this show via our Patreon page. If you want to weigh in with questions for upcoming guests, or give us feedback on past guests, or make sure you never miss an episode, click the link below. It's free to sign up. And if you're able to pitch in a few bucks a month, just know that we put every dollar back into the show. We do have another reporting trip to Ukraine coming up. Thanks for the help. Chris, another dark episode. We'll find something slightly more optimistic to talk about soon, I promise. But thank you, as always, for.
Hey, let's end it on a positive note, okay, because we can't let it go like that. This won't start sounding positive, but it will end positive. My threat assessment right now is that we are going to see nationwide increasingly active protests. No King's Day just happened this past weekend. It was tremendous. Some people estimate as many as 10 million or more Americans took to the streets. I expect that as this summer goes on, we will see more and more protests, maybe not nationally organized as well as the No King's Day was. That took months of planning to do. But we are going to see an increasing number of protests as Donald Trump continues to send ICE agents into Democratic states, Democratic-led cities to go after immigrants. In the last week, he has decided that he is no longer going to raid farms, which tend to be rural, which he assumes are his voters. He's no longer targeting this. So he's engaging in partisan political warfare when he's sending ICE agents into these communities. These communities are going to reject ICE. They are going to reject the state-sponsored kidnapping of people, the warrantless searches and arrests. They are going to respond negatively to what is effectively human trafficking, when they are taking even American citizens and sending them to third countries, not even the country of origin for some of these folks. Because of the increased heat, and I mean that literally and figuratively, the increased heat throughout the summer, we are going to see people who care about democracy getting more brave and getting more willing to put their livelihoods on the line, their reputations on the line, to speak out and to fight against MAGA. And I think that people who were feeling paralyzed between November and January and February, we didn't see protests, right? People were feeling paralyzed, shocked, in awe, of disbelief that America could re-elect an insurrectionist who had tried to end our democracy the first time around. These people who have felt paralyzed for so long are going to find their confidence. They're going to find their bravery. They're going to be inspired by the patriotism of others, and they are going to hit the streets. And that is going to give Democrats in office who have felt feckless the political capital that they need to really start hitting the brakes on everything that Donald Trump is trying to do.
I think you're right. I also think it begs the question, where have the leaders been? But I think we're going to see a new generation of leaders emerge from this movement. I think the future of the Democratic Party is extraordinarily bright. It has found its purpose, its cause. And
on that note,
yeah.
I want to let people know about this young woman named Deja Fox,
sure,
who you might be familiar with because she spoke on stage at the DNC. She's a young activist. in Arizona who is now running for Congress in Arizona in an open seat because a septuagenarian died in office. One of the Democrats who ran for office, despite not having a lot of time left, wanted that seat. So this is giving a 25-year-old a shot at that seat. We just interviewed her on my Find Out podcast. I would really like to encourage people to go check that out. They can find us on findoutpodcast.substack.com or on YouTube. Just search for the Find Out Podcast. If you look for the keywords Deja Fox, there'll only be one episode. I think people will see a light at the end of the tunnel when they see this young woman talk about the way that she would shake up Washington if she, a Gen Z young woman, were to get in office and would then be the youngest person in Congress.
Very cool. We'll put the links to your show down below, and I'm going to reach out to her and we'll get her on Midas Touch. So thanks. Awesome. Thanks, Chris. As always, great talking to you. Talk soon.
Thank you, brother.